Ready? All right. Welcome everyone to Brain Northwest Programming. Today we're joined by Jessica Shirley. She's a master in science. She's a certified health education specialist and health coach and has a deep and rich understanding of things related to nutrition and body wellness overall. She also has her own practice and hails from the wonderful state of Oregon and the city of Portland now. So today she's talking about knowing your fats. So thank you so much, Jessica, for being here again, sharing your knowledge, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Reggie. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you all for being here. Well, welcome. I'm gonna just start off with a little differently today and ask if you feel comfortable, would like to type into the chat box when you think of fat, name one food that you think of when you think of fat. Just type it in the chat box. When you think fat, what sort of food that you comes to mind? Avocado, yes. That's one of mine. Butter, yep. Avocado, yeah. Okay. Cheese, yes, yes. We're going to dive into these different types of fats. Yes, cheese has some fat, definitely. Meat, certain meats definitely have more nuts. That's some definitely amazing fats. Okay. All right. Got some good answers there. Bacon, yes, yes. Oh, I can remember my grandmother keeping that jar of bacon fat on the side of the stove. Much better fat than bacon, but definitely both yummy. Fish, yes, as you see here on the screen, are omega-3s. Wonderful. All right, so peanut butter, yes, yes, love it. All right, so we're getting some good answers here, and it seems like y'all have a good foundation already. So love that. Well, let's dive into the good, the bad, and the essential of fats. So, what are fats? Fats are also known as lipids, and they are a group of substances that don't dissolve in water. They are one of our three main macronutrients needed for our bodies. We've done classes previously on the other two, protein and carbohydrates, and then fat. So those are our three main macronutrients, meaning large nutrients. Like micro, you need them in smaller portions. You need the macro in large portions for healthy bodily functioning. Common lipids or fats include triglycerides. That is going to be the main fat found in food and body fat. Then we have phospholipids. Those help form cell membranes. And we have cholesterol, which is used to make hormones, vitamin D, and bile acids. Now, we'll go deeper into some of these as well because there's polysaturated and unsaturated and different things. We're going to dig a little deeper, but these are some common fats. And then just remember that a fat is not automatically bad. The body needs fat to function. As Reggie and I were briefly discussing at the beginning, there have been trends throughout history where they labeled fats as bad, but we absolutely need fats. And I think the pendulum swung the other way with like the thing. And so, but we just moderation and balance is key. So, what fats do in the body? Fats help provide energy. They store energy for later. They support brain and nerve function, build healthy cell membranes, absorb vitamins A, D, E, and K. So I want to make a little note and stop here about that. So we have fat soluble vitamins and we have water soluble vitamins. And so these vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat soluble. That means that they cannot be absorbed in the body outside of fat, and that's where they're stored. And at the same time, if we have excessive amounts of A, D, E, and K, they're harder to get that excess out of our body because it's stored in fat versus, let's say, vitamin C, for example, which is water soluble. If you took a handful of vitamin C tablets, your body is going to absorb what it can, and you will urinate the rest off that it can't take. Okay, so it's going to automatically cleanse out of your body with drinking water and just flushing out. But If you have too much A, D, E, or K, it's much harder to get it out of your body. So you need fat to absorb these specific vitamins, and they're crucial. But you also need to make sure not to get too much excess of any of these vitamins. Um, Fats also help make hormones. They protect your organs, and then they support flavor, fullness, and satisfaction. So I'm going to also do a little quick tangent on the protect the organs. So we have fat that surrounds our organs, which is called visceral fat. Then we have the fat that's just, maybe a little bit here or a little legs. That's subcutaneous fat. So the fats that we want to have less of the visceral fat, the fat that surrounds our organs, and because that's our vital organs, right? And it hinders their productivity. But our fat should be evenly distributed, and I would worry way less from a personal trainer standpoint. I would worry way less about carrying a little extra in your legs or your glutes or your arms or anything like that. So protects organs, it's vital, but we also want to make sure that we keep that to a minimum to the midsection for health. And again, it supports flavor, fullness, and satisfaction. It's just yummy. Fat and brain health. So here we go. We have brain is rich in fat, as we kind of talked about previously, briefly. It has, and certain dietary fats are needed to build and maintain healthy brain cells. Healthy fats, the good fats, which we'll dig into in a bit, build cell membranes, the fatty acids that form the part of the structure that surround the brain cell. It supports communication, sending signals through the body from nerves. It protects nerve fibers. It's a major component of the protective covering around nerves. It supports growth and development. Omega-3 fats, especially DHA, are important during pregnancy, infancy, childhood, and healthy aging. I take omega-3 or try to at least eat a significant amount of fish personally. Also, side note, chia seeds have a lot of omega-3. One thing that you wouldn't really think of is you can get quite a bit of omega-3s from chia seeds. Fat and brain health. Back to that. Maintain normal brain function. Essential fats contribute to learning, memory, attention, mood, and vision. Support healthy blood vessels. Replacing saturated fats with unsaturated fats can promote cardiovascular health and also supports proper blood flow to the brain. And it also helps absorb nutrients. As we just mentioned, dietary fats are necessary to absorb vitamins A, D, E, and K, which contribute to your nervous system and overall health. Fats and heart health. So fats can affect cholesterol levels, blood vessels, and overall heart health. Eating too much unsaturated fat can help support, I'm sorry, eating more unsaturated fats can help support healthy cholesterol levels. Too much saturated fat may raise LDL cholesterol, which can contribute to plaque buildup in the arteries. So if you've heard of the different types of cholesterol, there's LDL and HDL. LDL is the bad kind. Okay, so it's low density lipoprotein is what it stands for. HDL is high density lipoprotein. But just remember the acronym LDL and HDL. We want less LDL and more HDL. Healthy fats may help reduce inflammation and support normal blood flow. Choose fish, nuts, seeds, avocado, and plant oils more often for a healthy heart. Limit fried foods, processed meats, butter, and heavily processed snacks. And be sure to check food labels for saturated fat and serving size. The guideline is to keep saturated fat below 10% of your total daily calories. And for a 2,000 calorie diet, that looks like about 20 or 22 to 22 grams per day or less of saturated fat. So again, we don't need much at all of saturated fat. Fat and energy. So fat is the most energy dense macronutrient there is. So What I mean by that is like 1 gram of carbohydrates has 4 calories. 1 gram of protein has 4 calories, but 1 gram of fat has 9 calories. So you're getting a lot more compact energy into the same amount. This means a small portion of high-fat foods can add a lot of energy quickly, but it also means that it's important to pay attention to portion sizes. And then serving sizes, if you're having a food that has a package, be sure to look at the label and see if that package has 3 servings, then you maybe don't want to eat the whole thing at once. Okay. The main types of dietary fats. So there's 4 main types of dietary fats. Um, Unsaturated fats are what we want to shoot for. So okay, so these are the fats that are generally liquid at room temperature and can support heart health when used in place of saturated fats. Now, we have saturated fats, and these are generally solid at room temperature, and can typically raise the LDL cholesterol when eaten in excess. That's the bad cholesterol, and we need cholesterol. We need it, but LDL is we want to have less of that. So when you think saturated fat, the most stereotype I could tell you would be like Crisco or your bacon grease, which is solidified on the counter. Those things that are solid at a cool room temperature are going to be your saturated. And your unsaturated are going to be the things like olive oil, avocado oils, just your plant-based oils, which typically remain liquid at room temperature. Now, trans fats are all artificially altered fats that absolutely raise LDL cholesterol and lower the good kind. It lowers the HDL, and these should be avoided as much as possible. So read your food labels, see if there's any trans fat, try to avoid that as much as possible. And the main culprit on an ingredient label list is hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils. You want to read your food labels and avoid things with those specific ingredients as much as possible. What happens is they take the fat and they add an extra hydrogen atom to keep it solid at room temperature and make it a unnatural saturated fat. It serves as a preservative in a lot of processed food. A big eye opener for me when I was early on in this career was buying a package of taco seasoning and getting home and said, just let me look and see what's in this ingredients in this package of taco seasoning. And where it should have just been a handful of spices, it also included partially hydrogenated soybean oil. Yes, it included. I was like, why does this taco seasoning need partially hydrogenated soybean oil? So be sure, and it can be any type of oil. When they partially hydrogenated or fully hydrogenated, it turns it into a terrible thing for your body. So make sure we avoid those and any other trans fat. They are required to put it on food labels. And moving on, we have omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. These are essential polyunsaturated fats that the body cannot make on its own and must get from food, and they support brain function, growth, and health. And when I say polyunsaturated or monounsaturated, all that means is a double bond on the carbon. If you're into chemistry, mono is just one double bond on the carbon chain, and poly just more than one double bond. That's all that means. But mono and polyunsaturated fats are unsaturated or are good for you, and you want both of those. So digging a little deeper, unsaturated fats are often considered the heart healthy fats. And y'all gave lots of good examples there in the beginning. So we have olive oil, canola oil, avocado, and I use avocado oil too, nuts, seeds, peanut butter or almond butter, fatty fish. And these fats can support heart health when they replace saturated fats. Now, on a note for peanut butter or any nut butters, now you want to make sure that you read the label with anything you get, but these are ones that can be problematic because if you go by Jif, and I'm not trying to knock a brand in particular, any of the main brands, And it's super smooth and creamy, right? You don't have to stir it. It's not separated, but turn it over. It's going to have palm oil, or it might even have partially hydrogenated palm oil. Palm oil isn't good for you to begin with. It is a saturated fat. And so then they use it to emulsify the peanut butter and it reduces the health. So when we buy the natural peanut butters where it's just peanuts and salt and they grind the nuts and it separates, that's what we really want to look for. And I know it can be a pain to stir it, but it does keep us from having those extra saturated fats in our bodies. Okay, so breaking down omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids a little bit more. So omega-3 and omega-6 fats are essential polyunsaturated fats, meaning the body cannot make enough of them and must get them from food. So monounsaturated, your body can produce some. Poly, it's harder, and these are found in the omega-3, omega-6s are found in those. And this is why we need to make sure we get enough of these in our foods. So omega-3 fats support brain, eye, and heart health, help regulate inflammation, and are found in salmon, sardines, trout, walnuts, chia seeds, and flax seeds. Omega-6 fats support normal growth, brain function, skin health, and cell function. They also help the body produce signaling molecules involved in immunity and inflammation. And they are found in nuts, seeds, soybean oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, eggs, and many packaged foods. Now, while both are necessary, most people already consume plenty of omega-6 fats. So the greater focus is often should be on eating your omega-3s and choosing minimally processed sources of both. So I to this day, I don't, and all the time, I don't really have to have anyone, I haven't had a specific health problem come across my plate where I've had to have them focus on omega-6. They really, most people really do get enough of that in their diet. It's the omega-3s that we really want to focus on. Another little side note, if you do eat beef, grass-fed beef has more omega-3s than grain-fed beef, which has more omega-6s. Just a little side note. And the dreaded saturated fats, or the delicious saturated fats, however you want to look at it. So these are going to be solid at room temperature. Common sources: butter, cheese, whole milk, cream, fatty cuts of meat, bacon and sausage, coconut oil, palm oil, and many baked goods and fried foods. The goal is to limit saturated fat, but not eliminate all foods that contain it, because we do still get a lot of vitamins and minerals from cheese, from dairy, from butter even. And I'm gonna just use my own personal opinion here. I say coconut oil, even though it is solid at room temperature, it's not solid right now. Even if it's the air conditioning right now, it is one of those that's kind of like borderline, and there's mixed evidence. I find it to be healthy in moderation. It would not be my primary oil, but I would not get rid of coconut oil. I think it's still pretty good. There's so many vitamins and minerals that can be found there, but just not too much of it. And that goes with all of this. I mean, I would, if I had to choose my saturated fats that I was going to limit, it would be butter and cheese, and an occasional red meat. I do oat milks or nut milks because of my intolerance. I sometimes do ghee instead of butter, which is just clarified butter. It's not that much different. It's still going to be a saturated fat, but these can be beneficial in small amounts. But I wouldn't call bacon and sausage beneficial in small amounts. But like, but butter and dairy in small amounts can be beneficial. Trans fats. Now these are the bad ones. These are the bad guys, the no-nos. So trans fats are the ones to avoid as much as possible because they raise the LDL cholesterol, and lower our good cholesterol. Examples, I'm repeating, but this one's the one I want to bring home the most, is hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils on ingredients list, too much fried foods, many packaged baked goods, and many shelf-stable frostings, pastries, and snacks. If it stays on the shelf and doesn't, spoil or ruin over time. They had to put a lot of preservatives in there, and trans fats is a very common preservative. And even if the label says 0 grams of trans fats, check the ingredients list in case they were able to get around that somehow and you still see partially hydrogenated oils or other things like that. So good fats versus limit fats. Want to choose more often olive oil, avocado, and avocado oil, nuts and seeds, fatty fish, natural nut butters, eggs in moderation, and soy products. Limit, unless you have a sensitivity to soy, of course. Excuse me. Limit butter, lard, shortening, fried foods, processed meats, heavy cream, high fat packaged snacks, and any food with hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils. And remember to swap, not subtract. We need these foods. We're not cutting out fats. We just want to get the healthy fats in our diet. How much do you actually need though, right? So the common guideline is about 20 to 35% of your daily calories should come from fat. So a simple formula is to estimate your daily calories. I know the standard is 2,000. That can be plus or minus depending on your age, gender, size, and activity level and health needs. So if we're going to just use a 2,000 calorie diet to kind of give us an idea, we'll take the low end and multiply 2,000 times 0.20 or 20%. And then we're going to divide that by 9 because there's 9 calories in 1 gram of fat. So if we have 2,000 calories a day and 20% of that is 400 calories, so 400 divided by 9 equals 44 grams of fat. So that's going to be the low end of how much fat you need a day. And then we can calculate the high end at 35%. 2,000 times 35% is 700 calories divided by 9 calories per gram is 78 grams of fat. So that means that a person with a 2,000 calorie diet should stay in the range of 44 to 78 grams of fat per day. And this can flex if you've had, a low energy day and you haven't been getting much activity, you could get on the lower end, or if you've had a bigger day, on the higher end, very active, you went for a hike or whatever. Use your judgment, base it on your needs. Every body is different, and that's why there is a range here. Okay, fats and reading labels. When reading a label, as a review, check for your serving size, total fat, and then they'll usually break down those totals. So they'll have total fat, and then underneath they'll kind of indent, and then they'll give you the saturated fat and the trans fat. So really pay attention to that and look for the unsaturated. You want higher unsaturated, lower saturated, and preferably 0 trans fats. Look at the ingredients list because they're going to list those ingredients by weight, and the first ingredient on the list is going to be the most amount of product in that food. Look at the type of oil used. We mentioned several of the good types of oils, and think veggie based, okay? And then added sugars and sodium too, because that can affect cholesterol as well, and blood and pressure and vessels and all the things. Just remember, foods without labels are often some of the healthiest fat choices, such as avocados, nuts, seeds, fish, and whole plant foods. So I'm not telling you can't have food with labels. I'm just saying you can worry a little less when you have the natural whole foods. Simple swaps. Small changes add up over time. Instead of butter, you can try olive oil or avocado oil. Instead of chips, you need that crunch sensory thing. That's my downfall. Try nuts, seeds, popcorn. Instead of fried fish, try baked salmon or tuna, or pan-sear it in a little olive oil. It's nice. Sometimes I like to do a tuna steak and I'll crust it with black and white sesame seeds and just sear it in a little sesame oil. And it's so tasty. And you can do it rare if you like. It's amazing. So you don't even have to just bake it. You can pan sear it. We just don't want the deep fried and the unhealthy oils. Instead of a creamy dressing, you could try an olive oil vinaigrette. Instead of processed meats, we could try beans, fish, eggs, tofu, or lean proteins. And instead of pastries, we can try fruit with nut butter. I sometimes like to freeze grapes and eat them as a cold sweet treat. There's lots of things you can do instead of the Little Debbie's and the store-bought pastries. Those can tend to be pretty high in saturated fats. Build a brain and heart healthy plate. So this is what you would want to look for. I know this is a very generic cartoon plate, but you want to aim for half of it in fruits and vegetables or vegetables. Just make sure. So your veggies, you need 7 to 9 ideally servings of fruits and veggies a day. You would really want 2/3 or more of that to be the vegetables and fruits. Just 2 or 3 a day is good. So about half your plate in vegetables or fruit and some fruit, or just all veggies, a quarter protein and a quarter whole grains or starchy vegetables. So like corn or potatoes would be considered not a vegetable, they would be considered a starch. So, and then add a small amount of healthy fat. You can have a homemade avocado sauce, or you used olive oil to cook your chicken or your broccoli, you sauteed it, whatever. Just make sure you include a little bit of healthy fat and drink water. So an example would be like salmon with brown rice, roasted vegetables, cooked in olive oil, and a nice tall glass of water. Fats review. Key takeaways is fat is essential. We must have it. It is not bad. What matters is the type. Unsaturated fats are the better everyday choice. Saturated fats should be limited. Trans fats should be avoided. Healthy fats support brain, heart, and hormones and cells. And portions do matter because fat is calorie dense. So even if you're choosing only unsaturated fats, it still matters for portion control because of how calorie dense they are. And now, if we would like, we can have some discussion time, put up some prompts, and we can kind of talk about some of these. And I see some raised hands already. I love it.
I know it's great. I will turn off the recording and we can go into discussion because the chat has some great stuff, great questions too. So bear with me, everyone, for just a moment. Love the engagement. It makes the class so much more rich.